Student friends, now we'll discuss most important method of X-ray diffraction. It is called as powder method of X-ray diffraction. It is also called as a Debye-Scherer method of X-ray diffraction because this method is investigated by the scientists Debye and Scherer. It is called as Debye and Scherer method. So this powder photograph method is most commonly used diffraction method to study the structure of crystalline solids. So this method particularly used to determine the crystal structures of the crystalline solids. Now the name clearly indicates that the specimen or material whose crystal structure is to be determined is taken in the form of powder. So the material whose crystal structure is to be determined, it is taken in the form of powder. And advantage of using the specimen in the powder form is that each grain of the powder acts as a single crystal. There is no necessity of growing the single crystal separately. Each grain of the powder will act as a single crystal, means it will contain a large number of tiny crystallites, and their orientation will be the random orientation. Since if you consider, if you take the specimen like this in the form of powder, so each grain of this powder will act as a tiny crystals, and there will be billions of the single crystals. And the specimen in the powder form is taken in the thin walled capillary tube. This fine powder is prepared by grinding commonly available polycrystalline material. So that polycrystalline material, it can be grinded to get the specimen or material in the form of powder. And this method, as I told you, is independently devised by the scientists Debye and Scherer. It is called as the Debye-Scherer method. Now we'll see the experimental arrangement used to study the powder method, and there we'll see how this method is used to determine the crystal structures of the polycrystalline material. Now it consists of a cylindrical camera. So actually this is the cylindrical camera, and to this camera, inside a photographic film strip is wrapped so that the diffraction pattern will be produced on the photographic film. So inside of this cylindrical camera is wrapped with the help of a photographic film strip. This camera is called as the Debye-Scherer camera. Is also called as Debye-Scherer camera. Now a beam of monochromatic X-rays, here lambda is monochromatic, beam of monochromatic X-rays is obtained by passing this beam through the filters, so that we get a particular X-rays of particular wavelength, and this beam of X-rays, beam of monochromatic X-rays is collimated by passing it through the collimator, and fine and intense beam of the monochromatic X-rays is obtained, and it is allowed to fall on the specimen. We know that the specimen is taken in the form of powder, and there are large number of small crystallites which are randomly oriented. So we have large number of theta values and large number of d values are available because of the random orientation of these crystallites which are in the form of a powder. So the sample is mounted at the center of the camera. Here is taken that the sample should be at the center of this camera, and the capillary tube which is of non-diffracting material is used in which the specimen is taken. Now this beam of X-rays enter the camera as I told you, and after passing through the collimator, it strike the powdered sample, and since sample contains large number of tiny crystallites which are randomly oriented, and almost all possible values of large number of values of d and theta they are available. So there are large number of values, large number of d and theta values are available because of the specimen is taken in the form of powder. Now, when a beam of monochromatic X-rays is made incident, we will observe the diffraction of these X-rays for the particular sets of values of d, theta, and lambda, and we will get the diffracted beams in all directions like this. So here lambda is constant. We have seen that lambda is fixed monochromatic, and since for particular value of angle of incidence theta, a large number of sets of parallel planes are possible, and therefore the diffracted rays corresponding to fixed values of theta and d, they will be emerged out in the form of cone. So if you actually look at the diffraction pattern, since there are large number of d values and large number of theta values, and for that, or because of that, the emerging beam of X-rays is emitted out in the form of cone, which can be shown like this. So transmitted beam of X-rays will go out, and this angle actually is 2 theta. How this angle is 2 theta, that we'll discuss, and you will observe this X-rays which are reflected, they will emerge out in the form of cone, since there are large number of theta and large number of d values are available. The X-rays which are emitted, they will be emerge out in the form of this cone. Now, if this is the incident X-ray, this is the incident X-ray, and suppose this is the crystal plane. Suppose this is the crystal plane. So I have shown these two, which are similar reflecting planes, but which are differently oriented. So let us consider this is a crystal plane, and if the beam of X-rays is incident, we know that this angle is theta, angle made by the incident X-rays with the crystal plane. It is a glancing angle theta. Then obviously, according to laws of reflection, the reflected beam will go in this direction for this particular crystal plane and for this angle of incidence theta, so that this angle will again be equal to theta. So in this way you will observe the diffracted beam. But if you take the angle between incident beam of X-rays and the reflected X-rays, so this angle it will equal to 2 theta. So if you look at the laws of reflection, according to laws of reflection, if this is the angle of incidence, so this crystal plane or that axis of crystal plane will bisect it angle, and this total angle it will equal to 2 theta. Similarly, if you consider this reflecting plane, it has same value of d, but it is oriented in different direction, differently oriented. So it has same value of theta and d, but its orientation is different, so that this beam will get reflected in this direction, and again it will have also same this total angle 2 theta with this angle as theta and this angle as theta. So the cone will emerge out, reflecting rays will emerge out in the form of cones with the half opening angle as 2 theta, or full opening angle. If you take this as a full opening angle, this full opening angle of this emerging out cone will be 4 theta, and this point will be the vortex. I will call this point as O, so it will be vortex point. So that is how the emerging X-rays, they are coming out in the form of cones. That one has to understood. And when this beam of X-rays is reflected, again shown here, it emerges out in the form of cones, and when it emerges out in the form of cones, it intercepts a certain portion on the photographic film, and that certain portion of the photographic film is intercepted and it will produce an arc. So you will observe that this portion is observed by intercepted by this cone, I actually, and you will observe this as the arc produced by this cone. So again you will observe here as the arc, not like this. If you look at this cone, it will intercept this portion of the phototropic film strip, and similarly you will observe this here interception, and this portion of the film strip will be intercepted. So in this way, if you look at the diffraction pattern, so it will consist of a series of arcs. You are observing here, these are the arcs. So series of arcs, they are produced on this phototropic planes with this central spots. So this central spot will corresponding to the angle of diffraction. This angle of diffraction will be for theta, or we can call it as 2 theta. For 2 theta is equal to 0, and this will be at 2 theta is equal to 90 degree, and this will be at 2 theta is equal to 180 degree. So we are speaking in terms of 2 theta. If you take the theta, this will be 45, this will be 90. So if you develop this phototropic film strip after exposing for certain time, you will observe a series of arcs on this photographic film strip, from which it is possible for us to obtain the information about the crystal structure or that particular material. So different, as I told you, different cones are observed for different sets of d values and theta values for a particular value of n, and also for combinations of theta and d. If you take the combinations of theta and d, or combination of theta and n for a particular value of d, you will observe the series of arcs. Now, as I told you, each cone of the reflected beam will intercept the certain portion of phototropic film, and these intercepted portion will be in the form of arcs on either side of the film, with their concenters coincides with this entrance and exit holes. So similar arcs are produced on either side of the entrance hole due to the back reflected X-rays. For example, if you consider this as the black spot produced due to the X-rays which are in incident direction, then you will observe that this vertical line will be corresponding to theta is equal to 45 or 2 theta is equal to 90 degree, and this will correspond to theta is equal to 90 degree or 2 theta is equal to 180 degree for the X-rays which are reflected in backward direction. And the series of arcs, they will be produced like this, because this is the phototropic film strip, and this portion is nothing but arc which intercepts a portion of this phototropic film strip. So you will observe these types of arcs, and on other side of in backward direction, the X-rays which are reflected in backward direction, they will also produce a series of arcs, and you will observe the series of arcs like this. So if you try to interpret this series of arcs, you will observe that this arc corresponds to a particular value of interplanar spacing. I will call it as a d1, and the distance between these two, suppose it is s. And for other arcs, there will be other values of interplanar spacing like this. So these two arcs will be corresponding to another value of the interplanar spacing. These will be for another value of interplanar spacing. And on, if you consider this distance will be the half circumference of that phototropic film strip. So in this way, you will get the series of arcs. And if you consider one of this portion of this emerging out cone of the reflected X-rays. So this is X-rays, and it is emerging out in the form of cone. So if you consider this distance as s, which belongs to this, so this point, these 2 points will be corresponding to the reflected X-rays corresponding to two different planes, but which are differently oriented. They have similar values of d, similar values of theta. So this will be a half opening angle 2 theta, and this will be full opening angle as it will be 4 theta. So from this series of arcs, by using the comparator, we can determine this distance, yes. And if you apply some mathematics, you will get the theta values, or how to determine the theta values, that can be explained here. For example, if this is r is the radius of this Debye camera, or we can call it as the distance between the specimen, because the specimen will be here and this will be the point on circumference. So specimen to film distance, suppose it is r, or radius of the camera, then obviously we can write equation as this is nothing but 4 theta, obviously it will be in radians, is equal to, this is nothing but s divided by r. So this equation we can write, because r is nothing but angle subtended multiplied by radius, or from which we will get 4 theta in radian is equal to s divided by r. If you have to calculate this 4 theta in terms of degree, then you have to multiply this numerator by this quantity 57.296 into this s divided by r, so that you will get this 4 theta value in a degree. Now suppose if we take 4 r is equal to, suppose if you take 4 r is equal to 57.296 in millimeter, so that you will get this theta is equal to 57.296 divided by 4 r into this s, so that you will get theta is equal to, this is nothing but yes. So this theta will be in a degree and this s will be measured in millimeter. So this will be in a degree and this will be measured in millimeter. What does this indicate? It indicates that distance between these corresponding arcs, or this distance, or you can call it as this distance of a particular pair of arc in millimeter is nothing but angle theta. So if you measure this distance in millimeter, you will get the angle theta corresponding to this reflection. And condition is that we have to take this 4r distance is equal to 57.296, or we have to take r is equal to 57.296 divided by 4 in the units of the millimeter. That is how one can calculate this theta values directly. So by knowing all possible values, so you will get suppose for this d1 corresponding to d1, suppose you will get value theta 1. Suppose for another arc you will get in the similar way value, suppose angle theta 2. You can measure as many there are arcs, you will get the theta values. And we know that if you know the theta values, you can use the Bragg's condition for first order reflection, which is 2d sine theta is equal to lambda. So for first order of reflection, you can use this as 2d sine theta is equal to lambda. So you know the lambda is fixed monochromatic wavelength. You have calculated these theta values. You can calculate these d1, d2 and d3 values, and using this or by knowing these values of d1, d2, d3, we can determine the crystal structure. So how that can be determined, we will discuss in the next lecture. Particularly, we are going to study how to analyze the cubic crystal structure by using the powder method. So this is a very important method and very universal method which is used to study the crystal structures. Sorry. However, this is the old technique. Now in modern technique, what is done? The phototropic film strip is replaced by a radiation detector, such as ionization chamber or scintillation counter, and it records the positions and relative intensities of the various reflected lines, and it is measured as a function of 2 theta. Now the detector is mounted on the goniometer, which is capable of rotation about a sample at different speeds, and the whole system is computerized. And if you look at the such a diffraction pattern nowadays, you will observe the diffraction pattern is like this. So here the relative intensity is taken. You can take the relative intensity, and on x-axis the 2 theta is taken, and wherever the Bragg reflection occurs, it is recorded by this intense point. So all these peaks, they are corresponding to this Bragg reflection. So modern X-ray diffractometer gives these types of diffraction pattern. In such a case, it is not necessary to measure the distance between two arcs and calculate manually the values of theta. So it is a computerized, and directly you will get the diffraction pattern. And by comparing this diffraction pattern with the standard values, it is possible to know whether the material is crystallized in the specific form or not. So that is how this powder method is very important in order to study the crystal structure of the polycrystalline materials. In next lecture, we'll discuss how to make use of this powder method or data of this powder method to analyze the cubic crystal method. So hope you might have understood this lecture. Keep watching lecture and subscribing my channel. Thank you for watching this lecture.